I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 113. This one's with Ann Bujold, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She gave me a guide, and I'm still not 100% sure. And we talk about social change through metalworking. We were going to originally talk about like blacksmithing and stuff, but the conversation kind of leaned more towards her work with inclusive blacksmiths. If you'd like to find out more about her work, you can find her website at annbujold.com. That's ANNEBUJOLD. Or be sure to give her a follow on Instagram at Riveted Rabbit Studio, RIVETED or follow the thing she created called Inclusive Blacksmiths. That's INCLUSIVE_BLACKSMITHS. Inclusive Blacksmiths. And from there, there's a link tree where it has all the pertinent info that you would need. But make sure to give both of those a follow and tell her that Ramblin' Man sent you. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at @FeralGiant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and I grew up in Marion, Ohio.
Okay. So I have gone down a YouTube rabbit hole of kids interviewing bands. And it's a young 9-year-old girl from Columbus, Ohio, interviewing bands as they come through Columbus. It's adorable and amazing. And she's awesome. She's awesome. It's a great YouTube series to watch, to go down the rabbit hole and see like, trying to think like death metal bands being interviewed, like Guar. And she's just kind of like a little scared, but it's really good. Columbus, Marion. How long did you live there? Like your entire
No, I lived in Marion till I was a junior in high school, and then I spent a year in the Netherlands as an exchange student.
Okay.
And then when I came back, we moved to Minnesota. And so I lived in the suburbs of Minneapolis for a year, and then I moved to South Minneapolis. I was there for about 3 years, and then I moved to Portland, Oregon in 1999. I left in 2016 to go to grad school in Richmond, Virginia. And then after I finished grad school, I ended up at the Appalachian Center for Craft as an artist in residence. So I was there from 2018 to 2020. And I got my job here in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I got here on New Year's Eve of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my trajectory.
Okay. So you got there during the middle of the pandemic. How was that traveling from, was it Sparta? From Sparta to...
Yeah, I was actually in Watertown, which is
okay.
closer to Nashville, but I was working in Sparta
Okay.
after I finished at the craft center. I mean, it was like a year ago. It wasn't that bad. You know, it was kind of how things, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's all right.
I just mean moving from there right in the middle of the pandemic. That seems wild.
Yeah, over Christmas with like 3 weeks notice. So it was, but it was an opportunity. When opportunities come along, you got to jump.
Yeah, yeah. And
That's it.
I was going to say, so you said Netherlands for
Mhm.
student exchange. So
Yes.
what was, I hate to be the dumb American, but did they speak a lot of English in the Netherlands, or did you have to learn
Well,
the
most
language?
students speak, most of them speak at least 3 languages. So they speak Dutch, they speak English, and then they speak German or French usually. So, you know, I did learn, you know, kind of passable Dutch eventually, but it's kind of hard because when you're walking around trying to learn to speak Dutch and you sound like you shouldn't be speaking Dutch, they just speak to you in English. So it makes it kind of easy to like not have to do the work to learn the language. Whereas
Yeah,
I think if you're somewhere where nobody speaks English, you'd learn it a little bit faster.
yeah, I can see that. All I can think of is from Inglorious Bastards when Brad Pitt was like, "Now I speak Italian," and he speaks Italian with that super Southern accent.
Yeah, you would probably speak Dutch with a Southern accent.
See, I can't hear my Southern accent because I know people here where I need and you've been around this area enough. There are
Mm.
people in the hollers that you need subtitles. They understand what they're saying. Okay, so Netherlands. Was there any thought of staying over in Europe or traveling even more when you got done with that, or when
I
you
mean,
got to college level?
you know, I mean, I've wanted to, and I haven't really gotten out of the country that much. I mean, I've had a few little jaunts here and there, but nothing extensive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which, you know, I kind of regret, but here we are. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You and I are neither one have won the lottery or a Kardashian, so
Mhm. Yeah. Although, I mean, I don't, not to digress, but I think about like, man, I could have in 2001, I could have been traveling all over. It was so easy, it's so cheap.
yeah,
And, you know, I could have been waiting tables and taking 2 weeks off every 3 months and seeing every corner of the world. And I don't know, I'm afraid that like those windows may have passed and it was a sort of a moment where we had everything and it
yeah,
was all very accessible. And I think COVID really brought that home. And then what's going on now brings that home, you know, cheap and easy, free, like ability to freely move about the globe may not be the world we live in anymore.
yeah. There's a buddy of mine that he did that around the UK, like Scotland, Ireland, and he was talking about just walking. This would have been like 99 or 2000, just walking through the middle of some farmer's field in Scotland, and how it was like the guy came out with a shotgun, like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "Oh, I just need to get from here to here." And the guy was like, "Oh, okay. Well, if you'll just go down." And it was like, yeah. But now,
Yeah. I mean, I've been reading this book by Rebecca Solnit called it's called Walking, and it's about the history of walking, which is actually like a lot more involved and sort of walking as a leisure activity and how that evolves in England in the 17 1800s as it becomes safer to travel, as you have like a middle class who starts looking for leisure, sort of this idea of like, you know, it wasn't wandering around by foot, like wasn't something people did for a long time because it wasn't safe, you know. And so it's pretty interesting. So in England, there's a big tradition around like walking and these kind of public thoroughfares. So I haven't done as much international travel. I have traveled around the States a lot,
okay,
but not as much overseas.
it's it's uh, yeah. You bring up a good point because of especially with what we're in the middle of right now. It's I wouldn't say scary times, but it's just nerve-inducing times. I think is how I feel about it.
Yeah, it just makes me reflect on, you know, I mean, I think it's hard. You're always in the perspective of where you are, but just like, wow, we had it really good. I really kind of miss some opportunities. And it doesn't make me sad. It just makes me want to, make sure that I'm taking advantage of the opportunities that are present in my daily life and appreciating what we do have, right?
Yeah. So with shoot, I'm going to jump around a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
So with what you're doing now, do you have a lot of time to take off and travel, or are you kind of immersed?
Well, I kind of have orchestrated it so that the travel looks like work.
Okay.
So that's how
Yeah.
I've managed that. Like my next thing. So right now I'm teaching
Mhm.
full time at the University of Louisiana, teaching sculpture in a visiting position. And so I have some chunks of time off. I have a month off in the winter and then 3 months off in the summer. So this summer, as soon as we get done, I have a workshop scheduled that's at ESSO, which is the Eureka Springs School for the Arts, which is in northwestern Arkansas.
Okay.
I'm teaching a 5-day workshop called Forged, Found, Feral, and Fabricated. We're going to do welding, blacksmithing, and found object assemblage and make critters. And then I'm scheduled to go to a 2-week glass casting residency in Joshua Tree, California, with a lady named Jeannie Tomlinson Saltmarsh, who works at the Metals Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. So we're going to do that as a collaborative residency. So I'll kind of get to go do my travel under the guise of working.
Yeah.
But really, I'm like hanging out with my friends and doing stuff.
So in starting this new job, that was one of the first things I said. I was like, I've got to have continuing education. And all I was thinking of is when I worked at another company, I got to travel for conferences and stuff. And I felt, and I told them, I was like, man, every time I came back, I felt reinvigorated. I felt a lot more passionate about what I do for a living, because it was a break. It was being able to put away the stupid phone and just kind of immerse yourself. So it was a completely different thing. And luckily they were positive. I'm gonna knock on all the wood that they are going to follow through on that. But okay, so you are getting to travel. The Joshua Tree, that's pretty amazing. The Metal Museum was interesting. I went to it with friends while we were in Memphis, and it kind of blew my mind, that kind of area it was in, where it was all like all those abandoned. Have you been to the Metal Museum?
Yeah.
Okay, I assumed, but all those like abandoned warehouses and stuff around it.
Well, that's the old military hospital.
Oh.
It's all, but now they're turning it into condos. So actually, the Memphis College of Art closed, and the Metals Museum is moving into that building. So I think they're moving a bunch of their stuff into the MCAD space.
That's kind of a shame, because they were right there on the river.
Well, they're going to keep that property,
Oh, okay.
and that's going to be more events, and then they're going to expand and have a permanent collection. I actually don't know that much about it, so I shouldn't that's my understanding, and that they're going to be expanding a lot of what they're doing. So it's really a bummer that the college is gone, but it will be a very cool expansion for the Metals Museum. So yeah, the Metals Museum is a really unique institution. It was started by this guy, Jim Wallace, in the late 70s, early 80s. Mm-hmm. There was nothing in that part of Memphis at that time. I'm friends with a gentleman who was one of the first apprentices there, and I think in 1981. And back they were like just kind of cowboying, building a museum because they wanted to be blacksmithing and doing metalwork, and they were down by the river and doing everything by the skin of their teeth and with no money. And it's kind of a crazy thing that they built, and it's a real hub for the metals community, and it kind of gives a lot of legitimacy to the craft. It gave it sort of an anchor point. And they do a lot of really cool programming. They have apprenticeship programs. They have a functional foundry and blacksmith shop, and so they do commission work through the museum. They do public and private commissions, and they have the collection, and they have a library, and they do all kinds of programming. So it's a really unique institution just dedicated to metal arts. And so it's everything from jewelry to iron casting. It's really cool.
And I don't know how I think I found it on like just things to do in Memphis. Like I did not know it was a thing. And even driving over there, my friends that I was with, they're like, "Are you sure we should be going?" It's like, yeah. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Let's go over here.
You have to be careful, or else you end up in Arkansas. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
no, it's funny because like the first handful of times I went to Memphis, I never did anything but go to the Metals Museum. I was like, I've never even seen Memphis.
yeah, there's some good parts of Memphis.
Memphis is all right.
Yeah.
I've spent a little time there. I like it.
Well, I think it's the same with Nashville. Like Beale Street is all drunken idiots, to where you have to avoid Beale Street and get off the beaten path there. And I will say we stayed in West Memphis, Arkansas, which was terrifying. Like I've been in some scary scenarios, but West Memphis, Arkansas, there were parts where it was like, oh yeah, there were 3 people who got shot on that road this week. I was like, cool.
Wow.
I'll avoid that way on my way back to the hotel.
Yeah.
But yeah, Memphis is pretty. The last time I went to some coffee shop and it was all like hipstery and stuff. I was like, oh man, like I don't like this. I don't.
Yeah. It's everywhere, but you know there's some good stuff happening there too.
Yeah.
You know, so
I still want to say rough around the edges, just like Knoxville. I went downtown and the other day for lunch, and I pulled into one of the garages, and there was like a Maserati, 2 Teslas, BMW, Mercedes Benz. I was like, whoa, no. What is going on? Like, I don't understand what is happening here.
Yeah, I wish I'd jumped the Knoxville ship when I had the chance, but I got drunk south instead. Well, I'm always looking for jobs.
Yeah,
I'd love to get back to Knoxville.
Have you ever been hit up or tried with Aramont to do? Do they have metalworking at Aramont?
Well, they don't have. I've taught there, but they do workshops, so they do have full-time staff.
Yeah,
you know, who run all their programming and stuff. But
yeah, because if you ever make it back up here, please tell me, because there's some places I want to take you. Like there's a collective now down in the old city called April Trade, where it's 4 or 5 people who do woodworking and metalworking, and it's essentially a shop just for them. Like they rent out a booth, but it's massive, and but then they have all this equipment that all of them use. It's pretty neat. And my buddy John Phillips, who does Phillips Forge the knives, he just had to get a bigger shop, and it's been interesting watching the development of that.
Yeah, Knoxville seems like a really great place to be.
Yeah, I've switched from telling people, I was like, yeah, man, you ought to come here. Like, it's great here, to where now it's like, you need to come here and you need to leave. Because I can't get you to stay here, man. You're killing me.
As a Portland expat, I can tell you it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. Because we've been slowly watching it happen in Nashville over the last 20 years.
Yep.
And everything moves a little slower here. And I'm like, we can stop at any point, because I'm ready for it to still stay how it is. But yeah, it's I can't go down that rabbit hole. There's a whole myriad of things that have changed since left that are just.
One of the only guarantees is it's not going to stay the same.
No. I think a lot of, on my end, it's just like trying to keep, trying to think how to say this politely. There's no way of saying it politely. Trying to keep rich people out of poor neighborhoods. That's the best way to put it. Like, hey, no, don't do that.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Real estate thing is a huge problem.
Yeah. There's a friend of mine who's been a realtor forever, and he and I were talking about a year and a half ago, because it's like crazy now.
I don't think I'm ever going to buy a house.
Yeah. There's a friend that lives in Boulder that she said the city actually had to start a program to help people from Boulder buy a house, because so many people were coming in from outside and spending 80,000, 100,000 over asking price.
Yep.
And anyway, let's not get down mired into the into the drinking. That's when I need to start drinking. It's like, good Lord. Okay, so you're from there. You all moved around a lot. What did your folks do for a living?
Well, my mother is a science fiction writer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then my dad kind of dabbled in a variety of careers. He did a little stint in the army, and he spent most of the time he was a line cook.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, so your mom being, I'm always curious if somebody who gets into the arts, how their parents kind of reacted to that. But if your mom was a writer, then were they very like understanding when you decided to kind of get into the arts? Or
I actually think it took her quite a while to come around.
Okay.
Maybe, I think like a lot of people, I sort of, or maybe, I don't know if it's like a lot of people, but, I kind of changed my course,
okay.
Many times. So I think by the time I came to, it's not that she wasn't unsupportive, but I'm not sure that she believed me that like I was really serious.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it was another passing sort of fad sort of thing.
Whereas most kids try out baseball, karate, scouts.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't go to art school. I mean, I had already graduated from college with a liberal arts degree, and then I went back to school to go to art school when I was 24.
Okay.
So I didn't go right out of high school. I actually wanted to go to art school out of high school. I'd gotten into photography my senior year, but just kind of didn't have the wherewithal to advocate for myself in that way at that age. It was sort of what I wanted, but I didn't really know how to like put that out there.
Right. Okay.
And I had spent my junior year in high school in Holland. I came back, we moved to another city, and I sort of, at that point, I was like 16 years old, but I didn't really feel like I needed to be in high school anymore. And like, doing that was a really good experience, but it sort of interrupted my trajectory.
Okay.
So
yeah, you felt freedom. You were yeah.
I was like, why do I have to do this? I could just go be riding around on trains and like doing all kinds of things, meeting people from all over the world. I
just imagine you sitting there with, like, I don't need to do this. Just smoking clove cigarettes and just, I don't need to.
Yeah. I wanted to go sit at the coffee shop in Uptown and drink coffee and write poetry. And, I didn't need to be in high school. So I don't know. I did want to go to art school, but I wasn't really like, I don't know. I wasn't art school tracked. I was good academically. I was always like I was good at taking tests, and I have pretty strong writing skills. So I kind of got more academically tracked, and I don't know. So it took me a while. It's taken me a while to come around to find my own path.
When you were, so you said photography, when you were a kid growing up, were you into all kinds of different arts, like painting or anything, or?
I mean, I mostly remember drawing and painting.
Okay. And writing too, or?
I mean,
there's my secondary computer locked up, so I've been trying to get to restart for like 10 minutes. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
drawing, painting.
Mostly drawing and painting. I mean, I do remember my mom's dad was an engineer, and he was actually a welding technology engineer, and he was a professor at Ohio State University. And he did a lot of different things, including being one of the first television weathermen in the 1960s. Wow. And so like, I remember him he was all into technology and like had early stock in Xerox. So they had a copy machine, which was like a big deal in 1984. And I remember he would set me up in the garage with a video camera, and I'd do fake news broadcasts. That was one of my things that I did.
You put your ear, you'd be like, breaking news. This
They
just
didn't have this then,
Oh.
did they? I don't think. I think
Oh yeah,
that's
they may have not.
something
Yeah.
later. I don't know.
I don't know. He was into technology. He may have.
Maybe. No, but I mean, I remember mostly drawing and painting as a kid. And then I think as I got into high school, like, I was a disenfranchised youth. And so I, was into rock and roll and running around with my friends and that sort of thing. But I did when I did go to college out of high school, and I ended up getting into a lot of political science and sociology.
Okay.
And I got a general liberal arts degree. But I really think that all of that, I was taking a lot of women's studies and minority studies. And that's where I think that education like formed my understanding of the world and the framework that I brought to like art making. And so now I'm involved in this intersection of art making and community organizing.
Right.
So although at the time it seemed like it didn't really connect, I think over time those threads have come together in a certain kind of way.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to think how to train. Was there something you saw? Do you remember the first art piece or anything that made you kind of take notice, either when you were a kid or when you found, is it metalworking or blacksmithing? What is the correct term for?
I mean, I would say at this point, what I do is sculpture.
Okay.
There's some blacksmithing, there's some metal fabrication. I mean, I can't say that there was a specific moment per se, but there are like two particular things that happened.
Okay.
One was I went to the World Trade Organization protest in Seattle in 1999.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a really big deal, especially on the West Coast and sort of at this heyday of anti-globalization activism that, felt like it was, and I was kind of right at the perfect age. I was 20 to be kind of caught up in the optimism. And one of the beautiful things about that event was being part of this group of people who were able to coordinate and change the moment, like change a moment in history, and you had the coalition of environmentalists and indigenous rights activists and labor activists and all these different people who recognized that they had common goals and common interests, and there was so much music and art and puppets and like during those there's costumes and there's like a lot of joy that people bring to that.
Yeah.
And that was a really powerful experience. And then the other thing that happened that is really similar, and this is gonna sound super cheesy, but I went to Burning Man for the first time in 2002.
Okay.
And so I was 23 years old, and we got there at night, and I set up our tent, and, like went to bed, I think. And I remember I woke up the next day, and I was looking around, and at the time, Burning Man was about 30 or 35,000 people. I think it's double that now. So it was the size of my hometown, and I was like, this is a city in the desert that's like as big as the place where I grew up. And all these people came here for 1 week to build this thing, to just have this experience and then burn it to the ground. And it was so powerful and profound.
Okay, maybe I didn't know that about Burning Man. So the Burning Man is you build something and then they burn.
Well, they
Okay.
don't burn everything, but a lot of the art gets burned at the end of the week. I mean, and the whole thing is like, it's not an event where it continues year round. They
Right.
build it every year. So every year it's built new. It's never the same thing twice. And just the amount of energy and effort that it takes to bring all those people and all that material and all that, to that place to just create this experience.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about the art at Burning Man is it's not gallery art. And so it really helped me, like it kind of unlocked something for me where I was like, anybody can make art. Like it's not just people who went to art school. It's not just people with this education, because there's all kinds of people, and there's a lot of, like technology art, and it's the only place you can go to see that much large scale installation art. I mean, they put millions of dollars into those projects. I haven't been for 15 years, and I don't know what it's like now, but there's the social side of it, but the art side of it is incredible, and what it takes to put that all together, and like just what people put into making that experience was, I think that was a really pivotal moment for me. And at that Burning Man, there's a group called the Flaming Lotus Girls, and they're out of San Francisco. And I think it was their second year having an installation on the playa, and they had this installation. It was a garden of flowers that were all piped with propane. So they had like little, burning centers. So you'd walk through at night, you get the little hiss of the propane, and these flowers, metal flowers, are like flickering with the flames. And it, like, that had a really big impression on me.
Okay.
And they make huge like animatronic pyrotechnic art now, like crazy, like dinosaurs shooting fire. I mean, also, not to go on, but like, I mean, if you're into like fire and art, it's kind of the place to go to do that. I mean,
I think everything I'd heard about it, it sounded like if you want to do peyote and not shower for a week, it's the place.
Well, you can also do that, but I think that it's an event, whatever, there's 60,000 people there. There's people there for all different reasons, right? And like, a lot of people go to party, and you can do that. It's actually kind of a terrible place to do a lot of drugs because it's super dry and really hot. But you can do whatever you want.
And you can stumble into fire at any point.
But it is like, I mean, as far as that kind of art, there's nowhere to see that.
Right.
So that was, and it was within a couple years of that I ended up going to art school. So that was kind of maybe the moment.
And was the art school where you first started, I don't want to say training, but like actually learning like metalwork?
Yeah, so I got into a jewelry program, jewelry and small metals, at a place called Oregon College of Art and Craft that doesn't exist anymore. It closed down a couple years ago. So it was a very small school in the West Hills of Portland. They had woodworking, book arts, ceramics, fibers, printmaking, photography, and jewelry and metals. So that's where I started. So I started with jewelry.
Okay. Started with jewelry. So you started on the smaller end. And did you kind of build up to the bigger installation, the bigger pieces?
Yeah, I mean, when I started that, I didn't know about any of like this whole world that I'm in now. And I didn't know anything about art, blacksmithing, or that much about sculpture. And my second year, a girl, Elizabeth, came in, and she had taken a blacksmithing class at a place called Penland School of Crafts, which is over in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And she was like, we're, in our mid-20s, and like it's a lot of like heavy metal and, rock and roll. And she's like, you should take a blacksmithing class. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know what that was. And then, so she convinced me, and we applied for some scholarships that year. And so I got 2 scholarships to travel, one to go to Penland and one to go to a place called Haystack, which is up in Maine. So kind of similar idea to Airmont, they're in that kind of craft school circuit. And so that's where I took my first blacksmithing classes, and was totally in love, by the end of those 2 sessions.
I'm trying to think. I should just say, I know that because I know what I look and sound like sometimes, so I have to phrase my words properly. I know that artists are usually pretty liberal leaning, but did anybody give you shit for being a woman trying to get into blacksmithing, or were they like very inclusive and trying to bring you into the fold? Did you catch any shit, I guess is the best way?
I mean, at Penland or Haystack, no. I mean, those are not really those kinds of places. And I would say nobody ever gave me shit. You know,
Yeah.
I was also in the Pacific Northwest when I eventually stumbled into the Pacific Northwest Blacksmithing group.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a West Coast group. Like they're a bunch of guys who started it like in the 60s and 70s. They wanted to move out to the woods and grow pot and blacksmith and shoot guns and be left alone. You know, it's like kind of different than some areas of the country where you get sort of more reenactment kind of historical
Oh, okay.
blacksmithing, like people whose interests
Yeah.
tend towards those directions, right? So the California and like Oregon, Washington blacksmith groups are pretty liberal, I would say, you know, and nobody gave me shit. I think, you know, the barriers that I came up against in part were like internal, you know, just beliefs about what I could or couldn't do that were internalized from other places. And, you know, I think sometimes like there's subtle things that happen where people may or may not be well-meaning, but
Right.
that can kind of stand out. I personally never experienced any, like no one ever told me that I couldn't do it.
Nobody ever went, stand aside. Let me handle that for you. Like that kind of
No,
stupid
but
shit.
there's other sort of aspects of it. And that, you know, going to a blacksmithing conference where you're one of very few women in the room and you walk in the room and you're very aware that you are like
Yeah.
different from everybody else and everybody's gonna look, you know, looks at you in a certain way. And
Yeah.
you know that, and I'm sure, you know, and it's a challenge for any folks who don't fit in that major demographic, which is part of why I do what I do. You know, and so there's those things that happen that aren't overt, but still make you uncomfortable and kind of present challenges.
Yeah. Well, I think in like printing, I've seen a big shift where I see it seems to be a lot more women in the field. Like here in Knoxville, like there was one point where it was like 3 different female printers in one building downtown. You had Strike Light that was Sarah and Brian, and my friend Hannah, who's a screen printer in Cleveland. I was telling her, because she was talking about, she was the screen printer and she used to work with a partner that was the artist. And they would set up at, you know, markets and stuff. And people would come up and want to talk to him about printing. And he was like, I don't know how to do that. That's all her. And how it just kept happening to the point to where the dude, the artist guy, would start screaming at people and saying, stop doing that. Talk to her. And to where I was telling her, I was like, I need you to come down here and meet I don't know, I swear I do not mean this in a condescending way, but the badass women who are doing printing here that are kind of changing, like Julie downtown, changing the game when it comes to letterpress. Like it was something that kind of, when it started picking back up, it was a lot of guys, and it seems like it shifted now where it's more women, which is great. Like awesome, you know, because you're going to get, it's great to see different perspectives on art. It's never,
Well, it's critically necessary.
yeah. Yeah.
You know, one of the things you know, blacksmithing as a craft is like kind of outside of contemporary craft, and it's definitely outside of contemporary art. And one of the reasons I think that is that it has kind of I mean, blacksmithing as a craft exists all over the world, right?
Right.
So to say that, like in some form or another, it exists everywhere. There are people, you know, working iron to make all kinds of things, but sort of blacksmithing as I understand it in the Western tradition, from, you know, Western European sort of like ornamental ironwork perspective to contemporary American artist blacksmithing. So to be very specific about what I'm talking about, that because it's been an almost exclusively male and predominantly white craft, I think that that's one of the reasons that it's suffered, is the lack of diverse perspectives on the material and people bringing in, you know, just bringing different perspectives and new ideas to it. And that's part of why I'm excited to be, you know, part of a community that's working to change that, because I'm excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine here that This is, probably shouldn't cut this out. I'll just leave it in. But his long-term dream is to start a liberal arts vocational school, like for post high school. So you can learn woodworking, but also get like learn English and, everything else. Because he was like the trade school, not vocational school, trade school. He was like, because he was like, I think so many people now of diverse backgrounds would want to learn a trade. They would learn.
That's, you guys have the Appalachian Center for Craft there in Tennessee. You can get your liberal arts degree alongside, craft training and glass or wood or textiles. I mean, they have a great facility out there.
Yeah, but that's he's been wanting to do that forever. And I keep seeing more and more places open. Have you followed this new one here, Log Haven? It kind of opened in the pandemic.
The residency?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear. I mean, I know it's a residency, but
you and me both. You have to be. The only thing I've really heard is you have to live 200 miles outside of Knoxville to go.
That's the stipulation. I couldn't apply when I lived there. Maybe I should apply now.
It's massive. It is like 300 acres, or it's crazy huge. Like, yeah. Okay. So you approach, I'm going to say artistic blacksmithing, artistic metalworking.
I'd say, if you want to, I would call my work sculpture.
Sculpture. So you see it more from an artistic standpoint. Was there any point where you looked at it like from the jewelry aspect, like for a functional view on it?
I mean, I've made functional objects, and I've spent a lot of time in craft schools.
Okay.
I did my undergrad. I did my graduate degree in a craft and material studies program at Virginia Commonwealth. So, I think in the contemporary craft context, there's sort of, you can go the utilitarian direction. I mean, I've made functional objects. There was a period of time where I was working out of a studio in Northeast Portland before I went to grad school, where I was trying to make a go of it as a metal worker, and made different kinds of functional things. I don't see it so much as a dichotomy, but more of a spectrum. I'm not really personally that interested in making functional objects, except like, I don't know if I need to, or I want something, or I want to make something for someone. But as far as my own practice, I'm more interested in sculptural objects using what are, I don't know, fundamentally craft processes. But like, I don't know if they're craft processes or just processes.
Right.
I mean, I've spent so much of my life studying different metalworking techniques, and so I bring those in, but I'm also interested in bringing other materials into my work. So, I guess in some sense, I'm not doing anything like digital, or I'm not interested in like computer stuff as far as my work.
Like mapping it out and 3D printing it to figure out what you need to do.
No, although I would like to learn how to use Rhino to render patterns and like get them laser cut for to make 3D forms. There are ways that I could see using technology being very useful. I'm not anti-technology. I'm just not super savvy. And I would way rather spend my time struggling like in the studio than sitting in front of a computer. So, but it's something I'm going to need to embrace more as time goes on. I can't really avoid it.
There's a place here in town called High Resolution that they have all this specialty equipment. And when I was in there one time touring, they literally had a metal door in a laser etching machine that they programmed it out, and it like etched the logo. And I was like, that's insane. Like that they had this 50, 60 pound heavy door laying down flat with the doorknobs, and it was still just getting pushed right through. Like, that's amazing. That's same thing with wood. Like it had a carving element to it too. It was interesting. So you mainly work in metal. Do you also do like woodworking to complement, or just
I
straight
don't
metal?
use a lot of wood right now with what I'm doing with teaching. I'm digging into a lot of other processes. So I'm getting into the glass casting thing
Okay.
a little bit. That's my next thing I'm really interested in, alongside some foundry stuff. So wanting to do some larger scale casting because of the facilities that we have here, and just what I'd like to be teaching. Something I have a little bit of experience with, but
Yeah.
not a lot. So I'm more interested than I was in like mold making processes and casting processes, but that's new.
Okay. Uh,
I've always been more of like I want direct material manipulation, and that's why I like the blacksmithing so much.
yeah.
And like welding, it's just very like in the moment um kind of thing. I mean, I don't think that I'll go away from that. It's just adding more things.
Okay. Um, this may be I may be setting you up with one question to talk more about. The question would normally be, what would you like to see more of in art? But I also maybe take this opportunity to talk about inclusive blacksmiths a little bit. Like, is that something you would like to see more of in art? So you kind of created it.
Yeah, so the Society of Inclusive Blacksmiths project, I mean, in some ways, I think we're just trying to be the support that we needed for I mean, some of us have said that, like, we want to be the people our younger selves needed.
Right.
I mean, what I want to see more of in art, I mean, it's connected to that. And it's just, I, I've always had an interest in social justice, let's say, or just the idea of living in a kinder, gentler world. Like like Bucky Fuller, like it looks like there's plenty for everyone. It seems to be a distribution issue. And so I've come around to this set of beliefs that, we understand the world through the stories that we tell about it. And our cultural narratives are shaped by the art that is created. And so, in part, by being a teacher, what my job is to come in and to help facilitate students learning materials and processes to understand, the value and the benefit, what it takes to like make something in the real world, to overcome the struggles of a project, dealing with material, things not working out the way you want, but also is around a set of beliefs of that, the stories that we tell shape the world that we live in. And so everybody's story is important. And we live in a society that that tells us that culture is something that you purchase, that it's a commodity. And culture is not a commodity. It is the fundamental aspect of what it means to be human.
Mhm.
So I guess what I'm looking for in art, or what I hope to see more of, is just more all kinds of people putting their vision out into the world and shaping the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Because what we believe is possible is defined by the stories that we tell.
Yeah.
And if all of the stories are coming from singular perspectives, we're not going to get the full spectrum of possibility, right?
Right. Yeah, that's one thing growing up here, kind of in the Black community, and seeing it's not really gatekeeping, but almost like looking past or looking over from the white community has always been a thing. As a white dude growing up in that community, seeing it in other white people, I mean, like, whoa, 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 like, let's not do that. Let's being more, trying to get more people at the table, instead of just allowing it to be the same people over and over again.
Well, and in my opinion, it's beyond getting them to the table. Like what we're trying to do with the Inclusive Blacksmith Project is give like we were like, what can we do that has the biggest impact? And it was give people resources.
Right.
People need access to resources. And what are resources? Generally it's money. Like you need
Yeah.
time, or you need energy, or you need like access to something, and that typically takes money. So
Yeah.
that's, we have a scholarship program, we do direct grants. I run our mentorship program, which is a twice a year, 3-month virtual mentorship where we match people based on interests or identity. We just started our 3rd round of that, so we're in our 2nd year now.
Yeah.
And I think some people have had some really successful relationships. I mean, it's another one of those things. I think it was hard for me to find mentors because I had a hard time finding people I identified with.
Yeah.
So, all of those things. So as a white person, it's my responsibility to try to do whatever I can with my time, energy, and power to open doors for other people, or provide some kind, whatever I can do. What can I do to be, that's, I mean, as a white person, I'm benefiting from living in a system that's based on white supremacy. If I see that and I understand that that's wrong,
I
need to be doing something about it. I don't think what I'm doing is enough, but it's a step and it's something.
And it's more than most people. Like, I think that you're right. Like the fiscal and even the safety net of it all. Like I would get into arguments with one of my friends. God, I hate to keep harping on this, but she grew up in the country and it was all white people. And she was talking to me about struggles and stuff. I was like, yeah, but I was using 2 people as an example, like an affluent white woman from Farragut, because Knoxville a little bit. Farragut is kind of the, they have columns on the front of their houses. Okay. It was like her versus a young black man who grew up on the east side. And she was like, the woman had it much more harder than the young black man. And I was like, but she had a safety net. Like her dad, she has had it hard in certain ways. I was like, who I really think about is the young, because I was using real people in my head.
Yeah. Well, there's sort of, we can make generalizations, and everybody has individual experience. And, and that's where the idea of intersectionality of race, gender, sexual orientation, gender, all those things can influence how we're treated or how we see ourselves, and how difficult or easy it is to navigate power structures, or, just to move through the world without being hassled or being afraid that you're going to get murdered if you get pulled over for speeding.
Well, and it was because it was something that was happening kind of in real time. And it was the young black man that I knew his mom and dad, and I had known him since he was like 2 years old. And he wanted to get into graphic design and was a very good artist. He came and shadowed me at work, and his mom got pregnant with him at 18, I think. And he, at 19, started going to Pellissippi and learning graphic design, and got a young girl pregnant and had to quit and work out at Denso. And having my friend who grew up in the country going, well, that woman in Farragut had it. I was like, she has had struggles, yes. But this kid doesn't get to do what he loves to do and he's good at. I was like, because he doesn't have the fiscal or the buffer or the safety net. I was like, that's what I'm seeing. And she was like, no, he's had it easier.
Nobody's struggles negate anyone else's.
Yeah. But it was a weird argument to be with somebody who was like, okay. I finally just had to stop. I had to stop. You can't
really win. And there's no winning there.
Because all I was thinking of is, how do I help this kid not have to work at Denso to care for his kid? Like, and there was no way. Like, providing him money to take care of that kid was not an option. Yeah. But so you're doing something. That's the biggest thing I look. Any incremental steps. It's all incremental steps sometimes.
Yeah, it's something. I don't, it's not enough, but I do think that art is a place where we can do these kinds of things. And
Yeah.
um,
So with that, or even with what you're doing, do you set goals or checklist for like benchmarks of where you would like to be, like where you would like to see the Inclusive Blacksmiths program be in the next 10 years?
no, well, I mean, we have no, I think it's been a lot more organic than that. I mean, we've
Okay.
been trying to be, I mean, we're working towards more structure and organization, but it has been a pretty organic project. And I would say we're less of an organization and kind of more of a project or a collection of projects. We're a group of people working together towards a common goal. And, that group has fluctuated, with a
Yeah.
variety of people over the past 5 years that we've been working on it. And I think it will continue to evolve. We raised $18,000 for our end of year fundraiser, which was huge. It's only the second time we've ever done a fundraiser. So that was really exciting. So we have a lot, we met all of our goals for scholarships and grants for this coming year. And so we'll reevaluate and kind of reimagine what that might look like. But we never thought we'd get this far. So I don't know where this is going, but we just kind of keep working on it and things keep happening. And like, if anybody listens to this, the one thing that I would want people to take away is this idea of like, if you see something that needs to exist in the world, like you can't wait for someone to make it for you.
Right.
No one is going to do it for you. You need to go out and do it and then make it for the other people who also need it.
Yeah.
And we've made missteps and we have done it imperfectly and we have been not ready and we've been unprepared. You can't get to a point where you have everything in line and you know what you're doing, like to jump into something you don't know how to do.
Right.
We've faced a lot of criticism for a variety of reasons, some of it legitimate, some of it I think a bit specious, but like, you gotta just be bold and do the things that you think, make what you think needs to exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it does need to exist, then people will support it.
Yeah. That's so something that I am working on actually when we get off of here tonight. I am writing my first grant proposal.
Nice.
Or whatever. I don't even know what the hell it's called. I'm writing I would like to build a screen printing shop in my basement to create art, but more importantly I would like to run a program where another artist comes into town, stays with me or somewhere else, and we just come up with an idea for something, be it posters, shirts, whatever. We work it out, we build the art, we do it that week. And at beginning of the week, we have nothing. End of the week, we have something tangible to create art together.
So a little mini residency.
Yeah, yeah. And it's same thing. It's like, I could probably talk to Aramont or somebody. I was like, I just want to do it. I kind of want to do it my way. I kind of want to not to be stubborn, but I'm like, I don't want to have, I want to have self-imposed restrictions, as in like 1 week. But I don't want to, I want to be able, everything else to be free and do it how I want to do it. And so to your point, will anybody care? I have no idea, but I just want to do it. I just want to do it. Yeah.
Good
and
luck.
I've already been talking to people I met through Aramont and other programs of, like one of my friends, Stephanie, she's a teacher at Kansas State. And I told her, because she's the one who, I had done screen printing in high school, but when I went to Pentaculum, I think we talked about Pentaculum. Like I was at Pentaculum for a week, and I just asked her, I was like, how do I do screen printing? I've done this before. Can you teach me? And we spent an entire day where she just taught me how to do it. So I told her, I was like, you're the one who's inspired me, and I would want you to be one of the first people to come. Cool. And she's also very socially conscious, and I'm sure whatever we create together would be in that way. And I also want people to see, to go back to the beginning, I want people to see how great Knox was. They just have to leave. They have to.
Oh. Good luck
I
with
want
that.
cool people. I want more cool people like that. Less Maserati drivers and more
Yeah.
interesting people like that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that does seem like a good way to bring it back around, huh?
Yeah, we'll end on this, and maybe this will be something fun or positive. Is there anybody or any company or any group that would be your dream to work with or
The
work
Flaming
at?
Lotus Girls.
The what?
The Flaming Lotus Girls.
There you go. There you go.
That would be a dream. Or UT Knoxville Sculpture Department.
So,
I'd
there
take
you
either
go.
one of those.
There you go. Here, I'll wag my finger at this. I'll be like, I want to see your art in Crutch Park downtown because we're
And it's on fire, but in a good way.
Yeah, Eternal Flame. We've got the torchbearer over at UT that's constantly burning. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, there we go. We're halfway there. Yeah, I don't know. One of those.
Okay. Well, that's, I should say, everybody hold her accountable. But no pressure. No pressure. No.
For now, UL Lafayette's treating me pretty good. So
Yeah.
I got no complaints.
Yeah, shit got real really quick. It's like, whoa. But anyway, thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.